Who lived next door? Honey Nan said to Dana privately one afternoon, I don't know what Paula has been telling everyone about you too, but I know good people when I see them. You need to be careful with that woman. She's done this same thing. 2, 3 other families before you, and they all ended up moving away. The following weekend, Marty returned to our house, but this time he wasn't alone. Standing beside him was another man in an equally fake police uniform, and both had the same aggressive attitude and poorly concealed weapons. Hello again, Mr. Calhoun, Marty said with a grin that made my stomach turn. This is my partner, Officer Rodriguez. We have a warrant to search your property. I looked at the paper Marty handed me. It was obviously fake, like a school project gone wrong. It looked like it had been printed on someone's home computer, had no official seals, and contained several spelling errors that no real legal document would ever have. This isn't a real warrant, I said, handing it back like contaminated evidence. You're obstructing a law enforcement investigation, Rodriguez said, his hand already moving toward his weapon like some bad Western movie. Step back, or you'll be arrested. Dana appeared in our doorway at that exact moment, holding her phone and obviously recording the entire interaction like she was documenting evidence for a court case. Excuse me, officers, she said with that same dangerous politeness I'd heard before. Could you please show me your badge numbers? I need to report this interaction to your department.
Oh, jeez.
Marty and Rodriguez looked at each other like deer caught in headlights. Clearly, they hadn't expected that question from what they assumed. Was just another scared housewife. You don't need to know our badge numbers, Marty said, but his confidence was cracking like thin ice. Actually, I do, Dana replied with a smile that could have frozen hell over. According to Texas law, every citizen has the right to verify the identity of officers they're interacting with unless, of course, you're not real officers. The silence that followed was so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. Marty stared at Dana like he was seeing her for the first time, realizing this wasn't just some frightened housewife he could intimidate. Who exactly are you? He asked, his voice completely different now. Dana's smile grew even colder. I'm someone you really shouldn't have tried to mess with. After Dana's confrontation with Marty and his fake partner, I could tell something had fundamentally changed in this whole situation. Marty went back to Paula, and I'm sure his report wasn't what she wanted to hear. From what I later learned, their conversation went something like this. Marty complained that Dana knew too much about police procedures and was asking questions that only someone with law enforcement experience would know to ask. Paula's response was typically direct and terrifying. She didn't care who Dana was or what her background might be. She was paying Marty to handle the situation, not to make excuses. You have guns, you have uniforms, you have authority, Paula told him. Use them. Meanwhile, Dana wasn't wasting time playing defense. She called an old colleague from her days working with the police department. I need a favor, Dana said when he answered. I need you to run a background check on someone named Marty Knox, possibly former security or law enforcement here in Texas. Her contact paused, clearly curious about why Dana needed this information. Dana, it's been a long time. What kind of trouble are you dealing with? It's complicated, Dana replied. Can you help me or not? Within 30 minutes, he called back with information that confirmed Dana's suspicions completely. Dana Marty Knox, 42 years old, former security guard at Megamart, who was fired 6 months ago for assaulting a customer. He has restraining orders from 2 different people and has never been a real police officer in his life. Are you safe? After hanging up, Dana had all the confirmation she needed, but instead of confronting Marty directly, she decided to play a much smarter game. She called Paula and put on the performance of her life, pretending to be a scared housewife who was ready to give up. Mrs. Renard, Dana said, injecting just the right amount of trembling into her voice. I was wondering if I could speak with you, ... I think maybe we should move away from Oakwood Heights. I could practically hear Paula's satisfaction through the phone from across the room. Oh, Mrs. Calhoun, I'm so sorry to hear that, but perhaps it's for the best, for everyone involved. Could I ask you for just one thing? Dana continued her act. Could you give us 1 week to organize our move? I'll work on convincing my husband. Paula agreed immediately, probably thinking she'd finally broken us. The moment Dana hung up, Paula called Marty with news of their apparent victory. "It worked perfectly," Paula told him gleefully. "They're going to move out within the week, but I want you to keep the pressure on them. Make sure they don't change their minds." Marty was thrilled to finally have a win under his belt and decided to celebrate by showing off to his crew of wannabe tough guys. "Boys," he told Rodriguez and the 2 other fake cops he'd recruited, "we scared that couple so bad they're packing up and leaving, but the boss wants us to keep intimidating them until they actually drive away." Rodriguez asked what the plan was, and Marty's response revealed just how dangerously delusional he'd become. "We're going full tactical," he said. "Real police. Raid style. Make it look completely official. We'll frighten them so badly, they'll pack their bags that same day." While Marty was planning his elaborate fake police operation, Dana was setting up something entirely different. She installed additional cameras around our property, positioning them to capture not just our house, but the entire street. She also prepared her phone with quick dial numbers for her police contact in the local department. "Reed," Dana said too, "me that evening. Tomorrow might get intense. I need you to trust me completely, okay?" "What are you planning to do?" I asked, seeing a determination in my wife's eyes that I'd never witnessed before. "I'm going to end this whole situation once and for all," she replied. "But I need you to stay calm and follow my lead, no matter what happens." I looked at Dana and realized there were still things about my wife's past that I didn't fully understand, but I could see she knew exactly what she was doing. The next morning started off normal enough. I made coffee while Dana paced near the window, watching for any unusual activity. Around 10 a.m., we saw them. 4 men in fake uniforms pulled up in a black SUV with no markings, Marty Rodriguez, and 2 others got out like they were about to conduct a higher-risk warrant. Dana didn't flinch. "Showtime," she whispered. I was standing next to her when the knock came. It was hard 3 rapid pounds like they were trying to intimidate someone into obedience. I opened the door slowly, and Marty stepped forward with a ridiculous badge clipped to his shirt. "Mr. Calhoun, we're conducting an urgent investigation. Step outside immediately." Dana walked into view behind me. She had her phone in hand and was already recording. "Sir," she said in a voice that could have cut through steel, "are you currently threatening a civilian with a firearm while impersonating a police officer? Because that's a federal crime that carries a minimum 10-year prison sentence." A gun pointed at my wife triggered every protective instinct I'd developed during my military service. I quickly assessed the situation for armed men, Dana in immediate danger, and our need to get help while keeping everyone safe. I slowly reached for my phone, trying not to make any sudden movements. "Don't you dare move," the second fake cop shouted at me, panic in his voice. "I'm calling the real police," I said as steadily as I could manage. "Because you gentlemen are clearly not law enforcement officers." Nahone Carter, who was watering her plants like she did every morning, witnessed the entire scene unfolding. From her front yard, when she saw 4 armed men threatening her neighbors, she immediately understood this was a genuine emergency and called 911 without hesitation. "I need police immediately," she told the dispatcher urgently. "There are armed men impersonating police officers and threatening my neighbors with guns at this address." At the same time, she started recording the confrontation with her phone, from behind her fence capturing crucial evidence that would later prove invaluable. Paula, who had been watching the whole operation from her car parked down the street, suddenly realized that her simple intimidation plan had escalated into an armed standoff that could land everyone in prison. She began to panic, not knowing whether she should flee the scene or try to call Marty off before things got completely out of control. Dana continued her psychological warfare against Marty with a calmness that was absolutely remarkable under the circumstances. "Gentlemen," she said, never taking her eyes off the gun pointed at her, "you're currently being recorded by multiple sources. Impersonating police officers is a federal crime. Armed intimidation of civilians is aggravated assault. Everything you've said and done here is evidence that will be used against you." "You don't know what you're talking about, lady," Marty said. But his confidence was cracking like thin ice under pressure. "Actually, I know exactly what I'm talking about," Dana replied with that cold smile I was beginning to recognize. "I spent 3 years training law enforcement officers in proper procedures. I know exactly what real police officers do, and what you're doing is definitely not it. In the distance, we could all hear the sound of sirens getting closer and closer. Dana's police contact had received her emergency text and coordinated a response with the local police department, while Nan's 911 call had triggered an immediate, rapid response from patrol units in the area. When the fake cops heard those sirens, panic set in immediately. "We need to get out of here right now," Rodriguez said, his voice filled with terror. "Not yet," Marty replied, still pointing his gun at Dana like some kind of deranged action movie villain. "We finish this first." That's when Dana delivered the psychological blow that would shatter Marty's remaining confidence completely. "Marty Knox," she said, using his real name and watching his eyes widen in shock. "Former Mega Mart security guard who was fired for assaulting a customer? You've never worked in law enforcement in your entire life. Your boss, Paula Renner, hired you to intimidate residents into moving away. How am I doing so far?" At Dana, like he'd seen a ghost, clearly wondering how this housewife knew his entire background and employment history. "The hell are you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Dana's smile grew even colder as she delivered her final line. "I'm the person you should never have threatened." 2 patrol cars arrived simultaneously, and real police officers immediately assessed the situation. 4 men in obviously fake uniforms, holding weapons on a couple standing in their own doorway. "Drop your weapons now," the lead officer commanded, with the kind of authority that only comes from years of genuine law enforcement experience. The fake cops realized they were completely surrounded by real police officers with proper uniforms, proper vehicles, and proper protocols. The game was finally over, and everyone knew it. As Marty was being handcuffed and led away, he looked back at Dana with pure hatred burning in his eyes. "This isn't over," he snarled. "Paula has friends, important friends. You have no idea what you just started." Dana looked back at him with that same terrifying calm she'd maintained throughout the entire confrontation. "Actually, it is over," she replied. "And Paula is about to find out that some people fight back." I put my arm around my wife, finally beginning to understand exactly how capably and dangerous Dana really was when she needed to be. "Are you okay?" I asked her softly. "I'm perfect," Dana smiled, watching the fake cops being loaded into real police cars. But Paula's day is just getting started. After watching Marty and his crew get arrested in front of the entire neighborhood, Paula realized she was in serious legal trouble and raced home to begin immediate damage control. She started destroying documents, deleting emails, and preparing what she hoped would be an escape strategy from the mess she'd created. But Paula was also absolutely furious that anyone had dared to challenge her authority in Oakwood Heights the way Reed and Dana had done. She couldn't accept defeat, and her rage was driving her to make even more dangerous decisions. Paula immediately called her lawyer with a voice full of desperation and anger. "I need you to file legal action against Reed and Dana Calhoun right now," she demanded. "Harassment, defamation, filing false police reports, whatever you can think of to destroy them." Her lawyer's response wasn't what she wanted to hear. "Mrs. Reiner, based on everything you've told me, you might want to focus on defending yourself instead of attacking them. Hiring fake police officers is an extremely serious crime that could send you to prison." News of the fake police raid spread through our neighborhood faster than gossip at a high school reunion. Residents who had been too afraid to speak up against Paula's tyranny suddenly realized she had gone way too far, and many of them started coming forward with their own stories of harassment and intimidation. Mrs. Henderson was the first to approach Dana with an apology that was long overdue. "Honey, I owe you a sincere apology," she said with obvious shame in her voice. "Paula told all of us that you and Reed were troublemakers, but we should have seen through her lies instead of just going along with them." Mr. Garcia joined the conversation and added his own confession. "She threatened us to," Paula said. "If we didn't support her actions against you, our family would be next on her list." Suddenly, community solidarity began building around Dana and me in a way that felt almost magical. People started sharing stories about Paula's abuse of power and the intimidation tactics she'd been using to control everyone for years. Dana recognized this as the perfect opportunity to finish Paula once and for all, not just for revenge, but to protect our community from future abuse. She organized a neighborhood meeting and sent invitations to every household affected by Paula's reign of terror. Everyone who has been harassed by Paula or threatened by her fake police officers, please come forward, Dana announced. We're documenting everything for the police investigation, and this is your chance to make sure she can never hurt anyone again. 20 families attended that meeting, and the stories were heartbreaking. Over 20 families shared their experiences, from being threatened for choosing the wrong flowers to children's bikes positioned incorrectly, triggering eviction warnings. One single mother nearly lost her home just for taking out trash 3 minutes late. The pattern of systematic abuse became crystal clear as person after person shared their experiences under Paula's dictatorship. With her police contacts' help, Dana compiled a comprehensive case against Paula that was devastating. The evidence included financial records showing direct payments to Marty, email trails documenting the conspiracy to intimidate residents, video evidence from multiple households, and a clear pattern of systematic harassment targeting anyone who didn't submit to Paula's authority. This is enough evidence for multiple felony charges, her police contact told Dana after reviewing everything. But Paula is claiming you orchestrated this entire situation to frame her. Dana's response was simple. Let her claim whatever. She wants the evidence speaks for itself. No jury will believe her lies when they see what she's done to this community. Desperate and cornered, Paula tried one last gambit. Paula hired people to dig up dirt on our backgrounds, but the result only confirmed we were good people who fought back against harassment. Realizing she couldn't destroy us through legal manipulation, Paula decided on one final desperate HOA meeting. She scheduled an emergency session to vote on expelling dangerous elements from our peaceful community. The notice she sent was a masterpiece of manipulation. Emergency HOA. Meeting to vote on removing dangerous elements that have brought criminals and violence to our once peaceful neighborhood. These people have destroyed the safety and harmony we worked so hard to build. When Dana saw that notice, she smiled with the satisfaction of someone whose trap was about to be sprung perfectly. She's giving us exactly what we need, Dana told me with obvious pleasure. Paula is about to make the biggest mistake of her life. I was concerned about Dana's confidence. Are you sure about this plan? Paula is desperate, and desperate people do unpredictable things. Dana looked at me with the most serious expression I'd ever seen. Reed, sometimes you have to force people like Paula into the open where everyone can see their true nature. In closed rooms, they gaslight and manipulate. In public, with witnesses recording everything, they reveal themselves for what they really are. Word spread among residents about Paula's authoritarian regime, and many who had been silent decided to attend the meeting and finally speak the truth about their experiences. Non-Carter rallied older residents. We've lived here the longest, and we've watched Paula transform our friendly community into a fear-based dictatorship. It's time to take our home back. The younger families organized themselves, with one father saying our children should grow up in a community based on respect and kindness, not intimidation and fear. The story of our fake police raid caught local news media attention, and a reporter called Dana for an interview. Mrs. Calhoun, can you tell our viewers about the fake police incident? The reporter asked. Dana's response was perfect. Anne? HOA president hired men to impersonate police officers and threaten residents with real weapons. This is what happens when people abuse power without accountability. The story aired on evening news and brought citywide attention to the corruption and abuse happening in Oakwood Heights under Paula's leadership. As more residents spoke out publicly, Paula found herself completely isolated from the community. She thought she controlled. Even her most loyal supporters began distancing themselves, not wanting association with someone under criminal investigation for hiring fake police officers, Paula realized. She had lost complete control of the community she believed belonged to her, and her desperation was driving her toward increasingly dangerous decisions. The night before the final HOA meeting, Dana made her last preparations for what she knew would be the end of Paula's reign of terror. Multiple cameras were set up in the community center. All residents had been briefed on what to expect, and Evidence packets were prepared for distribution. Tomorrow, Dana told the group of residents gathered in our living room, we end Paula's dictatorship permanently. But we're going to do this the right way with truth, evidence, and unity. The community center was packed with more residents than I'd ever seen at an HOA meeting. And you could cut the tension with a knife. As Paula stood at the podium like a defendant about to face judgment, Dana positioned herself in the back of the room, like a prosecutor preparing to present her case, and everyone in attendance could feel that this was the final battle for the soul of our neighborhood. Fellow residents, Paula began with a voice that betrayed her nervousness. Despite her attempts to sound authoritative, we are under attack by people who don't understand or respect our community values. Reed and Dana Calhoun have brought violence and criminals to our once peaceful neighborhood. The murmurs of disagreement from the audience were immediate and obvious, but Paula pressed on with her prepared speech. They orchestrated that fake police raid to frame innocent security personnel who were simply trying to maintain order. They've manipulated all of you with lies and propaganda designed to destroy the harmony we've worked so hard to build. Dana remained seated and calm, letting Paula dig her own grave deeper with every word she spoke, because she knew that the evidence she was about to present would destroy every lie Paula had just told. Mrs. Reener, Dana said as she slowly stood up, her voice carrying the authority of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Since you're making such serious accusations against my husband and me, perhaps our neighbors would like to see the actual evidence of what really happened. Dana gestured to me, and I connected my laptop to the projector we'd set up for this exact moment. This is security footage from our home showing your employee Marty Knox threatening us with weapons while impersonating a police officer, Dana announced, as the video began playing on the large screen. The room fell into shocked silence as residents watched Marty point a gun directly at Dana, make explicit threats against our family, and claim to have police authority that he obviously didn't possess. Paula's face drained of all color as she watched her carefully constructed lies crumble before her eyes. That footage was taken completely out of context. Paula stammered desperately, but everyone in the room could see she was grasping at straws. Then let's provide more context, Dana replied, with the calm confidence of someone holding all the winning cards. More footage began playing that documented the entire scope of Paula's criminal operation. Recordings of Marty and his crew planning their fake raid, audio of Paula instructing Marty to use his authority to intimidate residents, documentation of the systematic harassment campaign against multiple families, clear evidence of the financial payments Paula had made to Marty for his services. Each piece of evidence was more damning than the last, and the community began to understand the full extent of Paula's abuse of power and criminal behavior. These recordings are fabricated lies, Paula claimed desperately, but her voice lacked any conviction, and nobody in that room believed her anymore. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and completely destroyed any credibility she might have had left. That's when the most powerful part of the evening began. As residents stood up to share their own stories, one after another stood up, speaking about fear and suffering under Paula's reign, from bird feeders to flags hung on wrong days to being threatened at gunpoint. Each testimony was met with murmurs of anger and disbelief as residents realized how extensive Paula's abuse had been and how many families had suffered under her authoritarian control. Paula was no longer standing at the podium. She had collapsed into a chair, no longer even attempting to defend herself against the mountain of evidence and testimony that was burying her. Neon. Carter stood up to deliver what would become the most memorable speech of the entire evening, her voice shaking with righteous anger. Paula, you turned our neighborhood into a dictatorship where families lived in fear of your arbitrary rules and threats. You terrorized elderly people, scared children, and hired criminals with guns to intimidate anyone who dared to question your authority. You're not a community leader. You're nothing more than a neighborhood bully with a power complex who destroyed the peace and friendship we all cherished. The applause that erupted after Nan's speech was thunderous and went on for several minutes. While Paula sat in her chair looking like she wanted to disappear into the floor, unable to maintain her fake composure any longer, Paula's true personality finally emerged for everyone to see. She screamed like a madwoman, "I am the law here. Without me, this place would be chaos. You created fear and misery, Dana said quietly. But her voice carried across the completely silent room with the power of absolute truth. The complete breakdown happening in front of the entire community was exactly what Dana had predicted would happen when Paula was forced to confront the truth in public. The mask had finally come off. Everyone could see Paula's true nature, a deeply disturbed individual who had used fear and intimidation to control people, just wanted to live peacefully in their own homes. I call for an immediate vote, Dana announced, taking control of the meeting with natural authority, to remove Paula Renner from all HOA positions and ban her from any future leadership roles in this community. The response was immediate and unanimous. In favor? Every single hand in the room went up without hesitation. Motion carried unanimously, Dana declared with satisfaction. Paula Rayner, you are hereby removed from office and banned from any position of authority in this community. As Paula was preparing to storm out of the meeting in defeat, her former police contact entered the room with 2 officers, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect. Paula Renner, he announced formally, you're under arrest for conspiracy, harassment, and coordinating the impersonation of law enforcement officers. As Paula was being handcuffed in front of the entire community she had terrorized, the reality of her situation finally hit her. This wasn't just the loss of her power, she was facing serious prison time for her crimes. This is all a terrible mistake. Paula shouted as she was being led away in handcuffs. You'll all regret this. I'll be back to restore order. Response was calm and final. No, Paula, you won't be back. This is over. After Paula was removed from the community center, the atmosphere changed completely. Neighbors began hugging each other, apologizing for years of silence, and celebrating their freedom from the tyranny that had controlled their lives for so long. We should have stood up to her sooner, Mrs. Henderson told Dana with tears in her eyes. Thank you for having the courage that the rest of us couldn't find. Dana's response showed the true character that had made our victory possible. We all found our courage tonight. That's what real communities do. They support and protect each other. An emergency election was held immediately. Non-Carter nominated as interim president and a board of residents committed to fair, democratic governance, taking control of the HOA. Their first official act was to abolish all of Paula's ridiculous rules and excessive fines. And their second act was to establish an oversight committee that would prevent anyone from ever abusing power in our community again. The court proceedings that followed were swift and decisive, because Paula faced multiple serious charges: conspiracy, embezzlement, hiring criminals to intimidate residents, and trespassing with the intent to cause harm. Her expensive lawyer couldn't overcome the mountain of evidence that included video footage, financial records, and witness testimony from an entire community that had suffered under her rule. Paula was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, ordered to pay full restitution of all stolen funds, and given a permanent ban from serving in any HOA leadership role anywhere in the state of Texas. Dana's police contacts investigation into Paula's connections had revealed that she'd been embezzling money from HOA's funds for years to pay for her fake police officers, adding financial crimes to her long list of offenses. With Paula gone permanently, Oakwood Heights began to flourish in ways that attracted positive attention from throughout the region. Property values increased as word spread about the community that fought back against HOA tyranny, and new residents were drawn to our neighborhood, specifically because of our story of courage and solidarity. My garage business began thriving. As the community rallied around local businesses, Dana expanded her self-defense classes to help other communities throughout the city recognize and resist abuse of power in their own neighborhoods. I'm so proud of what we accomplished together, I told Dana as we sat on our front porch one evening, watching our neighbors' children play safely in streets that were finally peaceful. We didn't just defeat Paula, Dana replied, taking my hand and smiling at the scene of community harmony around us. We proved that ordinary people can fight back against bullies and win when they work together. The story of Oakwood Heights spread throughout Texas and beyond, with other communities facing HOA abuse reaching out to Dana and me for advice on how to organize their own resistance efforts. What happened here can happen anywhere, Dana told news reporters who continued to follow our story. When people stand together and refuse to be intimidated, bullies lose all their power. Local politicians took notice of our victory and passed new laws requiring oversight of HOA finances, limiting enforcement powers, and protecting residents' rights against abuse by power-hungry board members.